Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, walk down pretty much any supermarket aisle these days, and you just can't miss it. There's this huge, ever expanding section, this kingdom almost, dedicated to getting rid of one thing: gluten. The gluten-free aisle. It used to be this tiny, maybe dusty corner. Right now, it's exploded. A multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, we're talking gluten-free bread, pasta, cookies, beer, even gluten-free soy sauce. You hear celebrities talking it up, saying it gives them boundless energy, athletes using it for peak performance, maybe even your neighbor swears by it for finally losing those last few pounds. The message feels really clear, doesn't it? Cut out gluten, get healthier. Simple. But is it actually that simple? Yeah, that's really the core question for this deep dive. Is going gluten-free a solid fact, just another passing fad, or for some people, a genuine medical necessity? So our mission today is to try and slice through all that hype, and really explore what the science actually tells us. We're going to dig into what gluten even is, look at the pretty compelling history of how it became a health concern in the first place, and then break down exactly who really does need to break up with bread and who maybe is perfectly fine staying friends with it. Let's unpack this. So before gluten became this wellness buzzword, it was just, well, food, part of food.
Yeah.
For like over 10,000 years, humans have grown and eaten wheat, barley, rye, these grains. And gluten, which is just a protein in these grains, is kind of the unsung hero of baking, isn't it? That stretchy, elastic stuff. It lets dough rise, gives bread that chewy texture we like.
It's the structure.
Exactly. Like structural glue holding your sandwich together. For thousands of years, nobody questioned it. It was just there, celebrated even. So how did this basic food staple suddenly become public enemy number one?
Well, the story doesn't start with a celebrity endorsement, that's for sure. It starts deep in medical history, really.
Right.
Back in the late 1800s, there was an English doctor, Samuel Gee, and he described this puzzling condition he saw in children. They had chronic indigestion, really bloated bellies, and they just weren't thriving, growing properly. He called it celiac affection. We now know it as celiac disease, of course. But back then, the cause was a total mystery for decades. Then the really big clue, the breakthrough, it came from a really tough time and place, World War II. Specifically the Dutch famine, 1944 to 45. Bread, wheat, it all became incredibly scarce. And a Dutch pediatrician, Dr. Willem Karel Dick, he noticed something quite remarkable. The children he was treating for this celiac affection, the ones who had been wasting away, they suddenly started getting better. Their symptoms just vanished.
Wow. Just because the bread was gone.
Exactly. And then when the war ended, supplies returned, bread came back into their diets.
Oh, no.
Their illness came roaring back, just like before.
Wow, so the famine itself unintentionally just laid bare this connection. That's quite a turn of events. That's incredible.
It really was. The link was suddenly undeniable. This wasn't just some random childhood illness. It was a specific reaction to something in wheat. And that something was later pinned down as gluten. And this was huge. It transformed celiac disease from this complete mystery into a condition you could actually treat with diet. It basically laid the groundwork for the very first medically necessary gluten-free diet.
The birth of a whole field, really.
Absolutely. Proving food could be, both a poison and a medicine, depending on the person.
That is an incredible story. Going from this life or death medical need to this global wellness trend we see now. So, okay, to figure out if going gluten-free makes sense for you, the listener, we really need to unpack the different ways gluten can affect people. Because it's clearly not just a simple good or bad thing, right? It seems like there's a whole spectrum of conditions.
That's exactly right. Different mechanisms involved. Let's start with a big one, celiac disease. This is the most serious form. And it's crucial to understand it's not just a sensitivity or an allergy. It is an autoimmune disease.
Autoimmune meaning the body attacks itself.
Precisely. It affects about 1% of the population, give or take. So think of your immune system like a super vigilant security team in your body. Highly trained, but maybe a bit jumpy. And someone with celiac disease, when they eat gluten, this security team freaks out. It sounds the alarm. But instead of just targeting the gluten, it launches this massive attack on the lining of the small intestine itself. Specifically, it damages these tiny finger-like projections. They're called villi. And they are absolutely essential for absorbing nutrients for your food.
Okay, so it's like friendly fire, almost. The body's defense system attacking its own crucial structures. And I'm picturing these villi. Are they like a carpet? A really dense, lush carpet inside the intestine, maximizing the area to soak up nutrients. Is that a fair way to think about it?
That's a great analogy, yes. They create this huge surface area.
So in celiac disease, the immune attack basically flattens that carpet, leaves it smooth and damaged.
Exactly. It flattens the villi. And when that happens, nutrients from food just can't be absorbed properly. They kind of slide right by.
Yeah.
And the consequences are serious. We're talking malnutrition, even if someone is eating enough food, anemia, osteoporosis because calcium isn't absorbed well, infertility issues, plus a whole range of digestive symptoms, and sometimes surprisingly non-digestive ones too.
Right. So for someone actually diagnosed with celiac disease, going 100% gluten-free lifelong,
Hmm.
it's not a lifestyle choice.
Not at all. It's essential medicine, non-negotiable.
Okay. So that's celiac. Now, moving along the spectrum, what about wheat allergy? You hear about that too. How's that different?
Completely different mechanism. Wheat allergy is a classic food allergy, just like, say, a peanut or shellfish allergy.
Okay.
So here, the immune system reacts specifically to proteins found in wheat. And it might not just be gluten, it could be other wheat proteins too. It sees them as a foreign invader, and it releases histamine and other chemicals, triggering an allergic reaction.
And this happens fast.
Usually, yes. Minutes to maybe a couple of hours after eating wheat. The response is quite rapid compared to celiac.
And the symptoms sound like typical allergy symptoms, like hives, maybe swelling.
Exactly. Hives, itching, swelling, sometimes digestive upset, difficulty breathing.
And potentially really serious, like anaphylaxis.
In severe cases, yes, it can be life-threatening. So, the key takeaway for wheat allergy, it's a true allergic reaction, needs a proper diagnosis. It means strictly avoiding wheat. But interestingly, someone with a wheat allergy might be perfectly fine with barley or rye, other gluten grains. It's specific to wheat proteins.
Okay, got it. Celiac, autoimmune, attacks the gut lining. Wheat allergy, classic allergic reaction to wheat proteins.
Yeah.
Then there's this huge kind of murky area, isn't there? The one that seems to involve millions of people. Non-celiac gluten sensitivity,
Right.
NCGS.
Controversial.
Yeah. These are the people who test negative for celiac, negative for wheat allergy, but they absolutely insist and feel significantly better when they cut out gluten. And the symptoms they report are very real, often really debilitating things, like brain fog, crushing fatigue, joint pain, headaches, bloating, even depression. It's a long list.
It is. And this has been a real puzzle for the medical community for years. What's actually going on here?
Yeah.
Is it just a milder form of celiac that we can't detect yet? Is it psychosomatic? Is it something else entirely?
Right.
Well, recent research has offered up a really compelling alternative explanation, or at least part of the explanation for many. It turns out that many foods that contain gluten, particularly wheat, are also high in another group of compounds. These are certain types of carbohydrates called FODMPs.
FODMPs, I've heard that term. It's an acronym for some seriously long chemical names, right?
It is. Fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Basically, short-chain carbs that are poorly absorbed in the gut for some people. And these FODMPs, they are notorious for causing gas, bloating, pain, diarrhea, constipation. Symptoms often seen in irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS.
Ah, okay, so the plot thickens. The gluten-containing foods often come packaged with these potentially problematic carbs.
Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. Some well-designed studies, proper double-blind trials, have tested this. They took people with suspected NCGS, people who felt better off gluten. They gave them capsules containing pure gluten or capsules containing FODMAPs or a placebo. Neither the patient nor the researcher knew who got what.
The gold standard study design.
Right. And what they found was striking. Many of these individuals didn't actually react to the pure gluten, but they did react when they were given the FODMPs.
Wow. So for potentially a large number of people in that NCGS group, it might not be the gluten itself.
It might be the FODMAPs that are commonly found alongside the gluten in foods like wheat, barley, and rye.
That's a huge distinction. It suggests the gluten-free label might be, well, maybe not telling the whole story for everyone who feels better avoiding wheat.
It certainly suggests the picture is more complex than just gluten bad. The gluten-free label is easy to understand and market, but the science points towards a more nuanced reality involving these fermentable carbs for many people with gut symptoms.
That makes so much sense. Okay, speaking of marketing and easy labels,
Yeah.
the wellness industry has really run with this gluten-free equals healthy idea. Let's tackle some of the big myths head on. Myth number one, and this is probably the biggest, going gluten-free is a great way to lose weight. You hear this constantly, but is it true?
Well, indirectly, maybe sometimes, but not because of the gluten itself.
Right, like if you stop eating pizza, big bowls of pasta, cakes, pastries, yeah, you'll probably lose weight.
Exactly. You're cutting out foods that are often high in calories, fat, and sugar. It's the overall calorie reduction, the shift away from processed foods, not the removal of that one specific protein, gluten.
And the kicker is, gluten-free junk food is still junk food, right?
Absolutely. In fact, manufacturers often add more sugar, fat, or refined starches to gluten-free products to try and mimic the texture and taste that gluten provides.
So that gluten-free cookie might even have more calories than the regular one.
It very well might. A cookie is still a cookie, gluten or no gluten. Cutting out whole categories of often processed foods leads to weight loss, not the gluten molecule itself.
Okay, myth busted. What about myth number 2? Gluten causes inflammation in everyone. You see this all over health blogs.
Yeah, this is another pervasive one, let's be clear. For someone with diagnosed celiac disease, gluten absolutely triggers a severe, damaging inflammatory response in the gut. That's the core of the disease. But for the general population, people without celiac disease, the evidence that gluten itself is inherently inflammatory across the board just isn't strong.
So blaming gluten for general inflammation might be missing the bigger picture of overall diet.
I think so. Our modern diets, often high in processed foods, sugar, and certain fats, can be pro-inflammatory. But singling out gluten as the universal culprit for everyone, the science doesn't back that up. And ironically, whole grains like whole wheat, a major source of gluten, are actually a key part of diets consistently linked to lower inflammation, like the Mediterranean diet.
Right. That's a really important point. Whole wheat has fiber and nutrients.
Exactly. So demonizing gluten for everyone doesn't quite line up with what we know about healthy eating patterns overall.
But hang on, what about all those anecdotes? You hear so many people say, I cut out gluten and my joint pain went away, or I feel less puffy. Is that purely the FODMAP effect we talked about, or the placebo effect, or is there anything else going on?
That's a great question. And it's likely multifaceted. For some, it absolutely could be the reduction in FODMAPs leading to less bloating and discomfort, which they attribute to gluten. For others, when they consciously decide to go gluten-free, they often start paying much more attention to their diet overall. They cut out processed foods, maybe eat more fruits and vegetables, less junk food.
So it's the overall dietary improvement that makes them feel better, not specifically the absence of gluten.
That's often a huge factor. The gluten removal becomes a marker for a generally healthier eating pattern. And yes, the placebo effect can be powerful too. If you strongly believe something will help you, it sometimes does.
Okay, that makes sense. It's rarely just one single thing, right? Let's hit myth number 3. You're somehow missing out or being unhealthy if you don't go gluten-free. Like it's the default healthy choice now.
Yeah, the FOMO fear of missing out on health benefits.
Exactly. But the reality could actually be the opposite, couldn't it? If you cut out gluten without a real medical need?
It certainly could be. You might actually be missing out on important nutrients.
Because whole grains, wheat, barley, rye, they're not nutritional voids. They're actually packed with good stuff.
Absolutely. We're talking significant amounts of dietary fiber, which is crucial for gut health, managing blood sugar, lowering cholesterol.
Plus B vitamins.
Yes, essential B vitamins for energy metabolism. And important minerals like iron, zinc, magnesium, things many people don't get enough of.
And the issue is that many gluten-free replacement products, they aren't fortified with these things.
Often no. They're frequently made with refined starches like rice flour, tapioca starch, potato starch, which lack the fiber and micronutrients of the whole grains they replace.
So unless you're careful, you could actually end up with a less nutritious diet by going gluten-free unnecessarily.
It's a definite possibility. You're trading nutrient-dense whole grains for often less nutritious alternatives if you're not actively seeking out fortified products or balancing your diet elsewhere.
Okay, so we've covered the history, the different conditions, busted some major myths. Where does this leave us? What's the future look like in the world of gluten?
Well, the good news is the science is moving forward. The conversation is shifting away from that simplistic gluten is evil mantra towards more precision, more personalized answers. Researchers are really focused on a few key areas.
Like diagnostics, especially for that murky NCGS category.
Exactly. The holy grail there would be a reliable biomarker. Imagine a simple blood test or maybe a stool test that could definitively tell someone, yes, you react specifically to gluten, or no, your issue is more likely FODMAPs, or perhaps it's another wheat component altogether.
Would be huge. It would end so much guesswork and help people get the right advice.
It really would. It would bring much needed clarity to that whole area. And then for people who definitely do have celiac disease, research isn't standing still either. Living with that strict lifelong diet is a huge burden.
I can only imagine. Worrying about cross-contamination constantly.
Right. So scientists are actively exploring new therapies, things like enzyme supplements you could take with a meal, to help break down small amounts of accidentally ingested gluten. And even more ambitiously, work is underway on a potential celiac vaccine. The idea being to retrain the immune system to tolerate gluten, or at least not react so violently.
Wow, a vaccine. That would be truly life-changing for people with celiac.
Game-changing. It's still in development, of course, but it offers real hope for easing that burden down the line.
And what about the food itself? Are gluten-free products getting any better, nutritionally speaking?
Yes, definitely. The food industry has evolved quite a bit from those early days of just plain rice bread. We're seeing a lot more innovation, using naturally gluten-free flours that are much more nutrient-dense. Think almond flour, chickpea flour, quinoa flour, buckwheat.
Things that actually bring some fiber and protein to the table.
Precisely. So while you still need to read labels, the options for genuinely nutritious gluten-free products are definitely improving for those who need or choose to avoid gluten.
Okay, so let's circle back to where we started. That huge, maybe overwhelming gluten-free aisle in the supermarket. After everything we've discussed, the medical history, the autoimmune science, the allergy response, the FOGMB connection, the marketing myths, hopefully, it looks a bit different to you now. It's clearly not just a straightforward aisle of healthy food. It's a really complex space. It's catering to a whole spectrum of needs. For some, it holds life-saving medicine in the form of celiac-safe foods. For others, maybe it represents a choice based on sensitivity, possibly to FODMEs, and for others still, maybe a trendy, perhaps misguided health choice.
Exactly. So if we bring it all together, what the science is telling us right now is pretty clear on the main points. For most people, the vast majority, gluten is just a harmless protein. It's found in whole grains that are actually really beneficial and nutrient-rich. For a small but significant group, those with diagnosed celiac disease or confirmed wheat allergy, gluten, or wheat, is a genuine health threat. Avoidance is crucial. And then for that large group in the middle, the ones experiencing non-celiac sensitivity, the answer is likely more complex. It might be gluten for some, but for many it could well be those FODMAPs or other factors entirely.
So the takeaway for you listening isn't necessarily to run out and join the gluten-free trend or to dismiss it completely either. It's really about getting curious and maybe a bit critical. If you suspect you have a genuine problem with gluten or wheat, please talk to your doctor. Get properly tested before you make drastic dietary changes. Don't self-diagnose based on something you read online.
Crucial advice.
And if you have cut out gluten and you feel better, that's great. But maybe ask yourself, what else changed? Did you cut out a load of processed food at the same time? Did you start eating more vegetables, more whole foods in general?
Understanding the whole picture is key.
Yeah. The goal here really is just to empower you to look past the headlines, beyond the marketing buzz, and start listening to the real expert,
Which is
your own body, but informed by real science, not just trends.
because ultimately, true wellness, genuine health, you're not going to find it neatly packaged in one specific supermarket aisle. It's really found in understanding that unique, ongoing conversation happening between your plate and your body.
And thankfully, like we've discussed, that conversation is getting so much smarter, so much more nuanced than just gluten bad, gluten-free good. It's about really tuning in, listening carefully to what our bodies tell us, but using the best available science to help interpret those signals correctly. That seems like the path forward.